got some really interesting source material to go through, excerpts from reports, other info. It all seems to point to Apertum being, well, a pretty significant player.
Yeah, more than just another chain. So our mission here is to really get into what these sources are saying, what makes Apertum stand out according to them, what's the deal with its recent activity, its designation.
Exactly. We want you to walk away understanding the picture these sources paint.
And it seems like it's not just dry stats either. The material uses phrases like movement and talks about hard numbers. So let's see what's behind that.
Okay, so first things first, setting the stage. Where does Apertum actually sit right now? The sources are clear. It's officially designated a key general blockchain, Tier 1 within Avalanche.
Then critically, this wasn't like a self-proclaimed thing, right?
No, definitely not. The sources stress that. It was earned based on robust on-chain metrics and explosive growth. And this happened fast, just a few months after launch.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, by the end of Q1 2025, the material says it had already shown measurable impact and was advancing the Avalanche ecosystem. That's that's quick progress.
It really is. And speaking of impact, there's a name that pops up in the sources that most people in crypto will know, Messari.
Right, widely seen as, one of the top crypto intelligence firms out there. The source material highlights their reputation, rigorous research, investor-grade reports, transparent data.
The kind of outfit institutional investors, hedge funds, protocols themselves rely on.
Exactly. So the fact that their Q1 2025 Avalanche report specifically highlighted Epertum's explosive growth, well, that means something, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. The source actually calls this a strong signal for both developers and capital allocators.
Makes sense. If you're a dev looking where to build, seeing Messari flag something gives you confidence, takes away some risk.
And for investors.
It signals, hey, here's a project with actual verifiable traction,
Hmm.
not just promises. It's backed by data they respect, potential opportunity.
Okay, so let's get into that data. The hard numbers the sources talk about, this is
Yeah.
where we see the evidence for that growth claim.
Precisely. This makes it tangible. First up, over 50,000 verified wallets onboarded. And this was via DAO1.
And the sources make a point about verified, don't they?
They do,
Yeah.
emphasizing these are real active buyers and on-chain participants. It points to authentic engagement, not just like a bunch of empty addresses someone created.
Gotcha. Real activity. What else?
Transaction volume,
Yeah.
1.35 million within just a few months.
Okay.
The source connects this to a sharp rise in smart contract execution and sustained user interaction. People aren't just holding, they're doing things on the chain.
Right. And for developers listening, what about building on it?
Good question. The sources mentioned 450 smart contracts already deployed.
450 already. How's it?
Well, the material credits Apertum's developer-first design and seamless EVM compatibility. Basically, it suggests it's genuinely easy for projects to build there, or even move existing stuff over. Low friction.
That would definitely help fuel deployment numbers. What about market activity, liquidity?
Another key point,
Oof.
the sources cite CoinMarketCap data showing $16.5 million in daily trading volume for its native token.
Which indicates?
According to the material, strong liquidity and sustained investor interest. Plus, it mentions a high liquidity score.
Based on what?
Things like exchange depth, volatility, volume, and this score is apparently high compared to other Avalanche subnets. The source sees this as showing strong market trust and industry-wide impact.
Okay, so the metrics definitely paint a picture. Rapid growth, real usage, developer adoption, market interest. But the sources also mention recognition beyond just these numbers.
Yeah, they do. For instance, the blockchain reporter, they apparently listed Apertum's token as one of the top Layer 1 fast-growing blockchains gaining momentum in early 2025.
Hold on, layer one. I thought it was an Avalanche subnet.
Good catch. It is a subnet.
Yeah.
But the source clarifies, this recognition wasn't about it being a Layer 1, but acting like one. It's seen as a top-tier Avalanche subnet blockchain, offering that kind of general-purpose utility you'd expect from a leading L1.
Ah, okay. So the listing recognized its capabilities.
Exactly. The source says the listing noted its advanced infrastructure, rapid ecosystem expansion, and active community participation. It wasn't just hype, it was about substance, validating it as a future-promising project with real-world utility.
And this expansion, the sources talk about the infrastructure itself growing rapidly too.
Yes, very much so. The material describes a real push to build out a complete ecosystem. The goal mentioned is sustainable adoption, decentralized finance, and uniting communities.
And what are the key pieces of that infrastructure they mention?
Okay, so they break down a few. There's a DAO1, that's the community governance piece, tied into DeFi products, giving users a real say. Then there's the Apertum DX, their own decentralized exchange. And there's a big step mentioned here. It's finalizing integration with CoinMarketCap.
Coin market cap again. Why is integrating the DX there such a big deal?
Visibility. CoinMarketCap gets, what, over 340 million visits a month?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. The source calls this integration monumental because putting their DX on CoinMarketCap's aggregator opens it up to that massive audience. Huge potential for visibility, liquidity, and user acquisition.
Puts them right in front of a lot of eyeballs. What else?
For the builders, they mentioned Apertum Wizard.
Wizard.
Yeah, described as a tool suite. Helps projects build on Apertum and deploy tremendous smart contracts fast and securely. Sounds like it's aimed squarely at making the developer experience really smooth. Ties back to those deployment numbers we saw.
Makes sense. Anything else on the infrastructure side?
One more interesting concept, community-owned liquidity.
How does that work?
The sources highlight this because it seems to really align incentives. It allows for governance and yield mechanisms directly tied to protocol liquidity. So users providing liquidity aren't just earning fees, they become actual stakeholders invested in the long-term health of the ecosystem.
Interesting model. More than just mercenary capital.
Seems to be the idea, yeah. Encouraging long-term participation.
Okay, so let's tie all this together. We've got the official Tier 1 status from Avalanche, concrete metrics showing growth, validation from Messari, broader industry recognition, and this rapidly expanding infrastructure. How do the sources ultimately position Apertum?
Well, it's definitely not presented as just, another subnet. The framing is much bigger. It's described as a full-fledged general blockchain, one with a proven user base, growing tech, and the ability to attract both builders and liquidity.
And how does it fit into the bigger Avalanche picture, according to this?
The sources use Apertum as a prime example. It shows how Avalanche's modular architecture can empower entire ecosystems to flourish in parallel. Its success kind of demonstrates the strength of Avalanche's whole approach.
Right, the sum being greater than its parts, almost.
Kind of. And with all this evidence, the hard data, powerful integrations, and what the source calls one of the strongest on-chain growth stories of early 2025, the conclusion they draw is pretty bold.
Which is?
That Apertum is no longer a hidden gem, it's a movement.
A movement? That's strong language.
It is. They round it off by saying the crypto world is watching this project, that it might help define what's next for scalable, decentralized ecosystems. Positioning it as potentially a dominant force in the L1 race, even though it's a subnet, its impact is seen on that scale that the entire industry is beginning to follow closely.
Wow. Okay, so bringing this back to you, the listener, why does digging into one specific project like this matter?
Well, understanding how Apertum, according to these sources, earned that Tier 1 status through measurable things like active wallets, transaction volume, deployed contracts, real market liquidity, gives you a really valuable framework
A framework for what?
for evaluating other projects. You can look past the hype and ask, okay, but where's the verifiable data? Where's the actual usage? It helps you see how individual chains, even subnets, can genuinely build momentum and contribute something significant to bigger ecosystems like Avalanche.
So it's about recognizing the signals of real traction.
Exactly.
Okay, so to wrap up this deep dive, the source material we've looked at paints a picture of Apertum experiencing a really rapid, data-driven rise, validated by external analysis, fueled by growing infrastructure.
Yeah, it depicts a project moving quickly from just emerging to becoming quite a significant force within its ecosystem based on these reports.
And that leaves us and you with a final thought to chew on based on what we've discussed from these sources. If a single specialized subnet like Apertum can achieve this kind of metric-backed growth and recognition so quickly, what might that signal about the future? About how competition, specialization, and just, the whole evolution might play out within these larger modular blockchain ecosystems going forward?